Last Slash is an NES-styled, full-length RPG I made in Scratch. Let me tell you how I did it, and the roadblocks that I had to overcome. It all started during late February of 2024. I was working on a game called Project RPG, but it was too big for me to work on it during school on my Chromebook. So, to make sure I was staying productive, I tried making a Final Fantasy clone. I made a very primitive prototype, planning to do nothing else with it. But what was I going to do after I made the prototype? Besides, I could try adding more things into it, like a proper overworld and equipment. And then, it spiraled out of control. The game taking 6 months of my life. Now, the origins of the game's mechanics. Skills and parrying were the master at nothing stables at this point, but this game was my first rodeo with many mechanics. This game uses Final Fantasy's ATB battle system, which is not turn-based. This system was used, to my knowledge, from the 4th Final Fantasy game to the 10th. I'll explain it to you. All characters in battle have a timer bar, also known as the ATB bar. It fills up over time, and when it's full, the character gets sacked. Due to a suggestion from an IRL friend, I also added weapon speed to the game. I thought it was a bad idea at first, but I warmed up to it the day after. Along with the character's speed stat affecting the growth of their ATB, I'd say it just works. Limit breaks were something I really wanted to try out, and I was satisfied on how they turned out in Last Slash. I actually wanted to let the player get multiple limit breaks for each character by getting kills or using limit breaks, like in Final Fantasy VII, but that was scrapped because, too much work. With the spells in Last Slash, whenever they were first created, damage typing did not exist yet. Fire did not destroy ice did not destroy earth, that kind of stuff. So I just made them do different things. Fire dealt big single target damage, ice dealt moderate damage twice, and Geo dealt low damage to all enemies. The game has little to no story, which is what RPGs are supposed to be all about. The main focus of Last Slash was to even work in the first place as a video game. You can still enjoy the game if you try hard enough. There's definitely potential to make a great story, but you'll still have to deal with the same roadblock that I had to. Critical hits were in previous games in their most primitive form, a minuscule chance to deal double damage. However, since I like timing things just right for a massive dopamine hit, I added staggering, which is a guaranteed critical hit if you interrupt the opponent's attack with your own. There are still random critical hits, however, but I made them interesting. The chance for a random critical hit scales with how low a character's health is. This is a system you can manipulate if you're good enough at parrying. Also, a stagger critical hit and a random critical hit can both happen at once for massive damage. Enemies can critically hit you, but not randomly. Hitting a character while they attack or after they miss them at parry is always a critical hit for the enemy, and due to how defense works, critical hits will deal a lot more damage than taking the damage normally. There's also a super crit. Every player attack has a 1 in 10,000 chance to deal absurd damage. The damage doubles, doubles again, doubles yet again, and doubles a 4th time. Think about how powerful that would be. I've seen multiple super crits occur, but they're usually once in a lifetime occurrences. Last Slash's character progression system is based off of the one found in Final Fantasy II's. The thought of being able to hone in on a single stat was pretty appealing to me, so I gave stats XP, so the flaws from Final Fantasy II's progression system wouldn't carry over. You will get better at what you use, simple as that. There are 7 classes that you can play as in the game, each with their weaknesses and strengths. The swordsman is durable and powerful, but poor in magic. The dueler is not weak, but not strong, but his overwhelming speed makes him solid. The trade-off is his poor HP growth. The paladin is probably the easiest class to play as. His high HP growth allows him to basically never die. His high wisdom growth allows him to proficiently use support buffs, which can easily empower a party. The mage is weak, squishy, but has overwhelming intelligence and wisdom growths, allowing her to use magic pretty proficiently. She's very powerful. The spell sword is all about offense. He's got the strength and intelligence to take on anything, but he sucks at support and actually taking damage with his poor wisdom and HP growths. The adventurer's strength is having no weaknesses, while her weakness is having no strengths. She specializes and exceeds in nothing, making her a good pick for the indecisive. The monk is a man who really believes in himself, He refuses to equip anything to a fault. If he used a weapon, he'd easily be the strongest class in the game. But no, he's actually hot garbage, a trap even. Slash has over 200 items. That's a lot of weapons, armors, and consumables. Well, at least for a Scratch game. The weapon variety is all over the place, allowing a ton of builds to exist. Such an ambitious project had to have some roadblocks, right? Well, dear viewer, you are correct. It's a roadblock many a Scratcher might be familiar with. The 5 MB JSON limit. A project's JSON has to be less than 5 MB. Not the total byte size, just generally the amount of blocks and lists. Most projects created don't hit it due to their small size. But I'm not going to dramatize it. I'm going to tell you how I overcame it. I asked around multiple Discord servers for a solution to my JSON problem. They all told me I was doomed, except for one server. The Super Fighter Re-Tournament Discord server gave me the hope that I needed. App gave me a link to a website that I never knew existed. It minimized the Scratch project's JSON size by a fairly large amount, but there was a problem. The project was still too large. The main source of the problem was the game's overworld. As bare bones as it was, it took up a ton of JSON room. There were only 2 solutions that I could think of. The first one was image scanning. I recall playing The Mast, a 3D project on Scratch that was a technological marvel to me. It scanned images for data, as Scratch costumes did not actually count towards a project's JSON size. I asked around on how to do it, but no one helped me. So, after some brainstorming, I came up with a new idea. Instead of teaching me image scanning, they tried to show me a special form of encoding. But the funny thing is that it made the overworld list larger instead of smaller. So, I used my personal encoding method and put it in a separate project. The idea was that users would load up the game and a setup project. Said setup project containing encoded strings of data, which I nicknamed codes. Users would copy the codes and paste them into the game, completing the process and allowing the full game to be on Scratch. Unfortunately, this means that barely anyone who tries the game will actually play the game. Multiple things can go wrong. Due to the game's large size, Scratch's famous loading failure bug kicks in, conveniently forgetting to load important sprites and costumes, replacing them with question marks. A workaround for this is to just use Turbo Warp. However, since many Scratch users use Chromebooks, the school may have blocked Turbo Warp. In that case, you must reload the Scratch page and see inside the project and check if anything was missing this time. If there's still stuff missing after reloading the page, then you just have to reload again until it works. Another reason people will not play the game is due to simple user failure. Many users expect to be able to play a game without looking at the description/instructions, and when that doesn't work out, they'll move on with their life and play something else, which means that they will never actually play Last Slash. That's it. If you want me to go more in depth about my game Last Slash, then just ask in the comments. I believe that no one outside of Silver and I have ever beaten Last Slash. I doubt anyone has the time or determination to beat some random internet user's game, and I'm okay with that. I proved to myself that yes, I can make a full-length RPG on Scratch, and you can too if you commit to it. Happy scratching.